All right, Frauders, how are you doing today? My name is Greg Ruskoff. I'm your Chief Risk Officer with the International Fraternity. And today I'm coming with a resource that I wish I would have had when I was chapter preakness. And this resource comes directly from a presentation I did as a general session at this last year's regional leadership conferences at all four locations. And for those of you that were not able to attend, the regional leadership conferences this year focused on the expectation of excellence and how do we as an organization advance the mission of the fraternity, which is to aid men in their mental, moral, and social development for life. And when I crafted this, I was thinking, what do our guys need? And what is one resource I wish I would have had is chapter preakness. So I put this worksheet together, and you can see it here on the screen, and it's designed to be discussed. It's designed to be used. It's designed to have each chapter with their own flair. And as you can see, it goes through what the vision is, and whether that vision is a personal vision or whether that vision is for your chapter. It's clear you need to start with that, and then we go to some other topics. So I blew these up so you can see them a little bit better, and I can send this PDF to anyone that needs it. But we have to start with our vision, because a dream, a vision, we have to be able to articulate that and write it down, because it'll help us craft our goals. So we start with the vision piece. Then we move on to E plus R equals O. The events plus our response equals the outcome. Now I can do, and probably will do, an entire another video on just this alone. But if we want better outcomes in our life, we need to have better responses. That's the down and dirty what that means. Next, I'm going to talk about this, but it's the area where we would start to fill in the above the line and below the line behavior. And I'm going to explain that here in just a second. I just wanted to blow up this worksheet for everyone. And then at the bottom is a section for action items. What are those action items that you can take and do your habits, the things that you're building through your discipline? Are those reflecting the values and the goals that you have as a member? So there's a lot going on in this worksheet, but I want to focus on above the line, below the line, because I utilize this in so many chapter visits and working with so many groups. I wanted to get this information out because I think it's so important. So what is above the line, below the line? Well, this comes from really two distinct resources, and one is called the Oz principle. And they go through KRAs, just like what the International Fraternity has and what the local chapters have, all the way down and breaking it to how do we get there? How do we see things? And it goes through a journey very similar to the Wizard of Oz. And how do we have that courage to act at the end? And one of the big key components of the Oz principle and the training that you can get on the Oz principle is above the line, below the line. And you can clearly define what is that line. And for us, it's our values, it's our standards, it's having a sense of urgency to get things done. It's how we can make better decisions. That mantra of these soft skills. Well, soft skills, in fact, are extremely hard. They're really hard. You could be the most talented individual, but if you don't have the soft skills, if you don't have the proper decision making to get it across, your boss is going to let you go. The team's going to cut you. There's no room for poor decision making or poor time management. There's room to learn. There's room to grow. There's room to get better. All of those things. But we have to draw that line of what's acceptable. And in this worksheet, we can talk about what are the above the line versus below the line behaviors. So we can focus on behaviors, then we can start to build that championship culture that we talked about for the last 2 years, and then we can start to expect excellence out of someone. But we have to clearly define what those behaviors are. And I put this in the context of a student, a frauder, and perhaps a community member. And we have certain roles that we play in our lives. So in those roles, what are the behaviors that keep us above the line? So the other resource that really played into helping me develop this was just listening to Urban Meyer, taking a look at some of the things that he's written. And Urban Meyer is a football coach. He's won a couple national championships. He was at Florida. He was at Ohio State. His career goes back even further. But this isn't about him. This is about what you can do. And what you can do is go through each of these roles that your guys play. You can put in new member. You could put in officer. You could put in board chairman. It doesn't matter. What we have to discuss is what are those above the line and below the line behaviors. And for a student, an above the line behavior might be going to class. It might be just a simple act of making sure I turn all my homework and my assignments in on time. making sure that I'm doing all of these things that I need to study and get my papers done. That's the above the line behaviors. Talking to professors, all those simple things that if we complicate it, they just become a bigger problem. But if we keep our behaviors up, they're gonna be where they're at. For a frauder, it might be paying your dues on time, attending meetings, keeping up with attendance, all those little things. Then we can start talking about what that below the line behavior is. Skipping class. Obviously cheating is going to be on that list for being a student. For being a frauder, the disrespect, getting into a fight, abusing alcohol or other substances. And that's where we can start to really craft this message of what the expectations are and set those up for our individuals. And when we do that, people know what's expected of them and how they can better perform. So you've got to facilitate this conversation, whether that's coming from an advisor, whether that's coming from a chapter preakness, whether it's coming from a hegemon. It doesn't really necessarily matter who's starting that conversation. The fact is that the conversation needs to happen. So you got to start, you got to take the action to get there. And I think, focusing on that above the line, what's acceptable versus below the line. Now, the other interesting piece that I like to throw in with chapters is having an above the line or below the line conversation, which is a play on this. It's a little bit different, but it's almost the same thing. And we can go below the line and we can start to complain. We can start to play the blame game. We can start to do all of those things that are just negative just to get it out. I suggest putting a timer on it. I suggest saying, okay, air it, let it out. Just let it out. Because now, as officers, we can sit back and we can write down all these concerns. Then we can go ahead and we can then address them, right? But we want to take that negativity. We want to squash it. We want to capture it and just work to eliminate as much of that negativity as possible and keep our behavior, keep our conversations above the line. So we'll give people that opportunity, but once that conversation is done, it's done. They got to bury it. They got to move on. So to me, having this above the line, below the line behavior talk and conversation are two crucial steps in keeping your chapter healthy, keeping your relationships healthy, and in really understanding what the standards are. So if you need any more information on this, if you want me to help explain it, if you want me to help facilitate it with your group, I'm happy to do that. You got questions, please feel free to ask. I drop my email right down here, my Twitter handle, my Instagram, whatever your choice is to get a hold of me, please do that. If you have any questions, hope you like the video, and I look forward to seeing you have some great success, Friars.